I call Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'm very pleased to rise to take a call in this estimates debate on vote housing. I think it would be fair to say, Mr Chair, that it hasn't been a banner year for housing. And the appropriations outlined in Budget 2012 certainly don't engender much confidence that the next financial year will be any better. There can be little doubt that we are facing a multifaceted housing crisis in New Zealand. This is a crisis of affordability, with rents rapidly increasing in most major centres. And in fact, in our largest city, Auckland, an estimation earlier this year of Statistics New Zealand prepared for the Auckland Council suggested 85,000 unaffordable rents, 85,000 homes in which the tenants were paying unaffordable rents in Auckland. And the dream of home ownership is out of reach for many thousands of New Zealanders of my generation who find that the dream of owning their own home is something they can only aspire to. It's also a crisis of availability, with thousands on Housing New Zealand waiting lists, and those waiting lists that have themselves been magically reduced by simply removing two categories from the lists, which makes it very easy to chop off large numbers at once. But those who are still on the lists are waiting, and there are many of them, and those who have been chopped off the lists are now battling it out in the private rental market, which is becoming increasingly difficult. Private rentals are oversubscribed, with hundreds of people showing up for every open home or responding to listings, and finding that landlords really are able to take their pick about their tenants. So if you have pets or children or other challenging circumstances, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to go straight to the bottom of the list when it comes to looking for a private rental property. And there are not enough homes to meet the needs of New Zealanders. And recently, another estimate in Auckland suggested that there's a shortage of 70,000 homes in Auckland alone. It's also a crisis of quality, with hundreds of thousands of children living in cold, damp homes that are making them sick, and that's both in Housing New Zealand properties and in private rentals. And the full effect, I believe, of the leaky homes crisis is also yet to be felt in terms of the quality of housing in New Zealand. Mr Chair, nowhere are these crises of affordability, availability and quality more apparent than in our largest city, Auckland, and in our second largest city, Christchurch, where they have been compounded by the devastating impact and aftermath of the earthquakes. So, Mr Chair, within that context of a housing crisis, I want to address a specific issue, which is how Housing New Zealand is coping with its Smarter, Faster, Fairer reform program, particularly from the perspective of how it is delivering for tenants. And I want to focus on quality and maintenance, and question whether Housing New Zealand tenants, who are, by the Minister's and the Government's own reckoning, only the most vulnerable families, how are they being provided for, and are they living in adequate, warm, safe conditions? And we heard some timeframes from the Minister in question time today in response to questions that I asked. And he said that when Housing New Zealand receives an urgent request for health and safety maintenance, that should be dealt with within 4 hours. And when they receive a request for urgent maintenance, that should be dealt with within 2 days. And when they receive a general maintenance request, which has credibility, as the Minister would say, that should be dealt with within 10 days. Now, Mr Chair, despite the fact that 2 weeks ago in a written question to the Minister, he told me that he, quote, cannot give an accurate indication of how much work is still to be completed at any one time, end quote, and if anyone would like to look up that answer, they can look up question for written answer number 4914. Today, he told the House that Housing New Zealand, in fact, meets these timeframes 93% of the time. And I wonder what has changed in the last 2 weeks between when the Minister was unable to provide us an estimate with how many maintenance requests were outstanding until today, when apparently 93% of the time they're magically being met. But when you look at the experience, if we put that to one side, and look at the experiences of the tenants, you really would have to question whether this is an accurate this 93% is an accurate figure. And I believe the Minister may be confusing two things. I think he's confusing the difference between response times in terms of lodging a request and actually having that lodged in the Housing New Zealand system and perhaps somebody making a phone call about it, and job completion, Mr Chair.
The Green Party has used its allocation of speeches. Now, just a point, because not only the Green Party but also New Zealand First, and I note that further down on the list that you're actually going to seek some calls, but you have now used all your allocation just as New Zealand First has. The reason I called you up here. So if you want to take other calls, then you'll need to negotiate with the other parties. So unfortunately I can't give, and yet I note on the schedule here that you were wanting to take calls and other votes. This is a point of order. Gareth Hughes.
Yeah, I mean, Mr Chair, I understand we've still got two calls. I understand we've got one of Mana's call, but am I best to approach the table to discuss it?
Yes, well certainly Mana, we've got that allocated to the Greens, but you, according to my schedule, you're actually wanting more than that. Now if that's not the case, you might like to come up here so we can discuss that further. So at this stage, is there any further call? The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, I appreciate the comments